It's not about pushing the immune system one way or the other, but really understanding where it is, what's going on, and how can we support it. And so, you've talked about the innate immune system, you've talked about the adaptive, and, people are probably wondering, okay, so I've got this within me now, how do I strengthen these or even create the immune resilience that he's talking about during a time where, my exposure to a virus, is likely.
Right. I think it's worth mentioning that, the point that you just made is really good, because it's not about, I just want to have a huge antiviral response. And all we want is to have a very resilient immune system. We also have to have a very tolerant immune system. So it's kind of like a teeter-totter. You don't want to be skewed to one side. And there is a biochemical, immunological way of describing this, and this is called Th1, Th2. Your naturopathic doctor knows about this in a lot more detail, but I'll just quickly describe it as, Th1 is that immune resilience, you're attacking a virus, and Th2 is kind of that allergic response. And a lot of people are in that kind of hyperallergic state, and that's why they may be predisposed to more infections, because if you have a high predisposition to allergy, you are going to have an inherently low ability to fight off a viral infection. And then vice versa, in other conditions, you might have it the opposite, and you're not creating an adequate response to a pathogen, let's say, and vice versa. So to answer your question, we have to do things that balance these two sides of the immune system. And I'm going to share with you a couple things that have research behind them supporting Th1 and Th2 balance. Number one, my favorite, is probiotics. And we talked about this in the context of gut. There are specific strains of probiotics. I'm thinking of one particular strain called Bifidobacter, and then there's this little identifier after it. Usually it's some number and letter combinations, but BB536 is the one I'm just going to say. But that one particularly has, over 30 human clinical trials on anything from, supporting the immune system and reducing the incidence of influenza, decreasing IBS. And one of those research studies are showing that it helps balance this Th2, Th1 immune system. So that is the first place I'm going to start. The second place is also prebiotics. And these are very close to probiotics, but quite different. So probiotics are the actual bacteria, and we have a whole host of trillions of bacteria in our gut, but prebiotics is the food for that bacteria. So fiber, we get that through soluble fiber, fruits, vegetables, certain grains. Whole grains will have lots of fiber, which will feed our good bacteria. So I'm really grooving on probiotics, and now much more on prebiotics because of the effects that they have on the microbiome and on balancing the system. And then, I'll mention two more. Vitamin D. Vitamin D is really, really important at creating a healthy immune tolerance, but so not an overreactivity, as well as making sure that we have immune resilience. And then mushrooms. Mushrooms are one of my favorite classes of natural health products. And there's lots of research on various different mushroom extracts that's showing an immune balancing effect. And the term that is used in the literature is called immunomodulators. And it's something that's beautiful about the botanical world and the orthomolecular natural world, is that when things are high, these substances help bring those levels down, whether it's a hormone or whether we're talking about the immune system. And when things are low, it'll help support them. So I don't love the term immune boosters because that's one-dimensional. I like immune balancers, and that helps you reduce overreactivity, but also making sure we have an adequate response against, let's say, a virus. Remember, the immune system has to be just like any child. It has to be properly brought up and sensitized to say, hey, you know what, this is wrong and this is right. And in the sense of in the example of the immune system, this is your own body cells, and this is what a bacteria looks like. This is what a virus looks like, and so on and so forth. This is what a food protein looks like, for example. So this is called priming, and there's these cells in the immune system that it is in around the GI tract called dendritic cells. And they're basically the cells that say, hey, you know what? I'm sampling all the things that are coming in through the intestinal tract, and I'm now going to help bring up the immature immune cells. And now if you're exposed to, let's say, a ton of sugar in your diet, or if you're exposed to foods that are very inflammatory, now those dendritic cells are going to be seeing proteins that are going to irritate them, that are going to say, hey, you know what? Create a response against this protein that's found in dairy products. And now those immune cells are walking around the body having an abnormal response to proteins that may look like dairy. And those proteins could be somewhere in your thyroid, or those proteins could be in your brain causing headaches. It could be anywhere. So that tolerance is so important. But the thing I'll add in terms of resources is there's also resources when it comes to nutrients, to having proper vitamin levels of vitamin D, let's say, for example, or vitamin C is used by the immune cells in much higher amounts when you're sick. And so that's why you can take way more vitamin C when you're fighting something, because the requirement of your body goes up. And that's something that's totally missed in the conventional healthcare system, because we think, oh, you know what? I have my vitamin C through my diet. Great, maintenance. But what if you're sick? You need much higher levels to create the response that now is required. That's, I think, totally overlooked in our current model.